Welcome once again, and today we have this topic, the scientific study of sentence structure. And I would like to tell you that this particular topic or this section has a major space in linguistics. So that means if you want to look a language, if you want to have a study about a language, this particular section will help you to identify and analyze and explain about the inner structure of a language. And that's why we are going to look at the scientific study of sentence structure. We are referring the scientific study here because linguistics is the study of language. And whenever we are talking about the study of language, we are referring specific knowledge and specific study. That's why we are referring as the scientific study. And today we are going to look at, we are going to analyze, we are going to explain this scientific study of a sentence. Of course, as a part of English linguistics, we will have English language as a prime focus. And definitely all the slides are prepared by me, that is Mohammad Nasim Firdaus, and the sources of this information depicted here in these slides are taken from Giorgio, Charles F. Mayer and other sources. And I, Mohammad Nasim Firdaus, would like you to invite you to my next slides, and I believe you will be there till the end in order to understand the scientific study, or we can say syntax. So we are having syntax, another components of language today. So let's have a look at our contents. So here are our contents. First, we would like to know what is syntax, and then we will be looking at generative grammar. You all know that grammar is all about the structures, so we will look at generative grammar, and of course we will know what is generative grammar as well. And then we will look at the structure, syntactical structure, and under syntactical structure we will have deep structure and surface structure. And then this particular slide, this narration will end in this point, structural ambiguity. We will know about structural ambiguity, but I should inform you that this is just one part of syntax. You need to have another section of syntax to have a together complete idea on syntax. So let's start. What is syntax? Syntax is the arrangement of words to form phrases, clauses and sentences. Yes, in a language, in the written form of a language, we can find words, we can find phrases, we can find clauses, and of course we can find sentences. Whenever we are talking about the spoken form of a language, we mainly talk about the sounds, and those sounds are discussed and studied under phonetics and phonology, especially phonology whenever you will be looking at a particular language segment. But after the sound section, whenever we will be looking at its written form, we have to look at its words, its sentences and its meaning as well. So definitely we need to look how words and the phrases and the clauses and the sentences get together to give us a form, to give us a format by which we can structure a language. So that's why we will have the arrangement of words, phrases, clauses and sentences. And that's why we will also be looking at the construction of a sentence. We all know that whenever we are talking about sentence, the sentence can be formed through words, through phrases and through clauses. So how the sentence constructs will be studied under syntax, and we'll be looking at that as we are studying syntax. And then the study of the principles and processes by which sentences are constructed. If you remember about the features of a language, you know that language is a system, and you also know that language is a system of systems. That means we cannot put all of the words according to our wish. We cannot whimsically put words in a sentence in order to get a structure, in order to get a meaning from the structure. So that's why we need some principles, we need some rules, and of course we need some processes and the procedures in order to construct a sentence. And that also are studied, those studies are also concerned under syntax. And the rhythm of sentences created by grammar patterns. So whenever we are talking about grammatical pattern, that means all of the grammatical patterns are governed by rules. So those rules are not just mere rules. There are rhythms in there. That means there are patterns in there. So if we study syntax, we will have rhythm of the sentences and we will have grammatical pattern in there. Okay, now I don't know whether you will like cricket or not, but if you do like cricket and if you are one of the fans of Bangladesh cricket, definitely you will know who is this picture all about. And if you don't have any idea about this person, here is the name, Tamim. Tamim is one of the opening batsmen in Bangladesh cricket team, and as I said, he is a batsman, so his main responsibility is to hit a ball. So the question is, what do you see? What do you see? That's a very common surface question for all of you, and I can easily understand, you can understand what you see. Yes, Tamim is hitting a ball, or we can say Tamim hits a ball, and that's his job, to hit a ball not to the hands of the opposition but to the gallery, but to the boundary. Okay, but what is the connection? What is the connection between Tamim and this picture and syntax? Okay, you don't need to wait a lot. We have the next slide to give you an answer. But before that, our curious minds want to know what do the world's languages have in common? How do the world's languages differ? These common questions. So to answer the first one, what do the world's languages have in common? The sentences can be analyzed in terms of subject, verb and object. For example, if you just remember a Bangla sentence, you will find subject, verb and object. And of course, if you look at here, you will find this sentence, this interrogative sentence, and you will find this thing, subject, verb and object. And nouns can be analyzed as agents, as subjects, or patients as object. So we will have subject and object and verb in almost all the sentences, and that is one of the common things in all of the languages, world's languages. So how do they differ? We all know that the sounds are different, the words are different, but what about the sentences? Are they different? In the linear order of these elements, yes, they are different if we consider about their order, their arrangement. For example, in order to constitute a Bangla sentence, you will have first subject, then you will have object, and the sentence may end with a verb. But in English sentences, the sentence will start a subject followed by verb and it will end by an object. So that's the difference. So in the words that are used for them, so they are different through the words and the linear order. So one of the goals of syntax is to come up with a theory that explains that all languages have in common and how they differ. So in order to explain this, in order to explain the differences and similarities, we have this universal grammar. We have many things to common, and those common issues are referred under universal grammar. So by referring those, we can identify and understand those. Okay, now still we did not go out from syntax. Still we would like to know syntax. Syntax, please tell me, who are you? Yes, so we had hope you have not forgotten Tamim in the previous in a previous picture. So we can say Tamim is hitting a ball, or we can say, is Tamim hitting a ball? Okay, and first one is an assertive sentence. We can say this is an affirmative sentence, and next one is an interrogative sentence. You all know these things, but the auxiliary, notice that the auxiliary verb is appears. It should be auxiliary appears, is appears to move. Auxiliary verb is, we are talking about this auxiliary verb is, appears to move. Okay, let me have you give you one correction. Here there will be one comma. Notice that the auxiliary verb is appears to move in front of Tamim to form the question, a phenomenon often referred to as subject auxiliary inversion, SAI, subject auxiliary inversion. So this is the rule, is move in front of Tamim to form the question. So if it is a question, then this particular auxiliary verb needs to come in the form, and that's what we are referring. That's what we are referring as syntax. Now let's turn to indirect questions. I wonder if Tamim is hitting a ball. Okay, there is no SAI. I wonder whether Tamim is hitting a ball. No SAI. And I wonder if is Tamim hitting a ball. And last one, I wonder, is Tamim hitting a ball? So if we look closely about the sentences, you can easily identify which one is correct, which one is not correct, which is wrong. And whenever you will find SAI, subject auxiliary inversion, and that is bad SAI, you will have lots of confusion on there about their correctness. So we have 6 sentences here in this slide, especially affiliated with Tamim. Tamim is hitting a ball. Is Tamim hitting a ball? I wonder if Tamim is hitting a ball. I wonder whether Tamim is hitting a ball. I wonder if is Tamim hitting a ball. I wonder is Tamim hitting a ball. So there are many sentences. You can see that there is subject, there is object, and there is verb as well, but there are some issues. The issues are sentences numbering 1 or 4 are good or well-formed grammatical sentences. That's what we are saying, that SAI. But sentence number 5 and sentence number 6 has ill-formed sentence. It has a bad SAI, which makes it as ill-formed sentences. So if you are not able to verbalize this knowledge, that means if you are not able to explain these sentences, explain this information, then syntax is going to make this knowledge explicit. Syntax will explore or its intersection in front of you as you can understand those. And Another is to explain why some sentences are well formed while others are not, because of those SAI and the other rules to form a sentence. And in order to understand that, in order to understand the theory of how grammar works, theory of how sentence structures, we need to know the universal grammar. But before universal grammar is referring one particular grammar which explains many grammatical patterns, but in a singular format. For example, we said earlier about that subject, verb and object. The presence of subject, verb and object in the languages are very similar. So by these things we can understand that. So now we need to look at the generative grammar. We also can say generative grammar as the mathematics of sentence structure. So it seems a little bit of interesting when you find mathematics in English, especially when we are talking about sentence and sentence structure. I know many of you might not like this, because I find many of my students who are scared of mathematics and they like English as well. Or I can say, in other words, those students who like mathematics, they have a fear in English. I don't know, and I'm not saying to have similar thoughts and opinions, but from my experience I have seen that. But as you know that linguistics is not a part of philosophy at this moment, it is part of soft science. So many issues will come and we need to analyze those issues based on scientific study. And that's why mathematics has come. And it was brought by Noam Chomsky in 1950s. And Noam Chomsky compared it with basic algebra. For example, let's have this equation 3x plus 2y. I believe this equation, you have done these kinds of equation in your early life. That means possibly from class 6 to class 10, and you have done these kinds of equations in your mathematical class. In here, we are not talking about those complexities and the rules and regulations, but consider here, if we can have a specific number in place of x and y, we can produce the result. For example, if we have 5 for x and 10 for y, we can say that this equation will convert to 35. And if we change the value from 5 to 2 or 10 to 1, that means 3 into 1 plus 2 into 3 into 2 plus 2 into 1, it will result in 8. So that is a very simple equation, I believe. But what is the connection? Why did we come here? The connection is, we are here because we want to create sentences, English sentences, by following simple rules and simple structures. And that's what Noam Chomsky said. Let's see. If the sentence of a language can be seen as a comparable set, then there must be a set of explicit rules that can produce all the sentences. For example, if you know that in English we have this format for a subject plus verb plus object. If you know this structure, then you can produce many sentences following these structures. So like this, if you have other structures like this one, you can produce more sentences. And that's what generative grammar is explaining. Generative grammar refers that by learning explicit rules, we can produce or generate infinite number of sentences. A generative grammar because it can be used, a generative grammar because it can be used to generate or produce sentence structure and not just describe them. So we are referring generative grammar because it can be used to generate or produce sentence structures, not just describe them. So we'll not be able to describe them, but we will able to produce sentence structures, and those defines the syntactic structure of a language. The syntactic structure of language. So now the question comes, what is syntactic structure? Syntax structure, when we are analyzing the structures, that means analysis of the syntax of a language. And whenever we will be analyzing the syntax of a language, we will have this one, all and only criterion. All and only criterion refers all the grammatical sentence and only the grammatical sentence. Whenever we are referring generating grammar, we are referring generating structures, we are referring generating grammatically correct structures, grammatical correct sentences. So we are referring all the grammatical sentences and only the grammatical sentences. We do not want to produce ungrammatical sentences, or we can say we do not want to produce those patterns which are not grammatical. So if you do that, then you can produce all and only grammatical sentences, which are one of the criteria of having the language, to understand the language. So the grammar will have a finite number of rules, but will be capable of generating an infinite number of well-formed structures. That's what we are saying in the previous slide, that we will be learning some definite number of rules, but we will be able to generate infinite number of well-formed structures. I am repeating this phrase, well-formed structures. Definitely we have to look at the well-formed structures, and the grammar should also be capable of revealing the basis of two other phenomena. First, how some superficially different sentences are closely related, and second, how some superficially similar sentences are in fact different. So whenever we will be referring these sentences, this grammatical pattern, we'll be looking at how those sentences, the produced sentences, as derived or generated from a specific or limited number of grammatical rules, how they come different and how they come similar as well. Okay, now Tamim broke the window. Yes, actually Tamim hits the ball so hard that it hit one of the windows in the nearby building and it broke the window. Tamim broke the window by the ball. He hit the ball so hard. And we can also say that the window was broken by Tamim. If we look at these sentences, you know that there are differences in there. In a very naked eye, you can see that these sentences are different. And the distinction between these sentences you are identifying because of their surface structure, the different syntactic forms they have as individual English sentences. So if you know the grammar, you know that one is active and another is passive. So one is active in its active form, another in its passive form. So, and of course, if you look at the sequence, the position of Tamim and window, you will find the differences in there as well. So if we look at the base structure, these sentences are different. That's why we are referring it as surface structure. But if we look closely, if we want to look more in depth, then we will find that though these sentences, as we can say that though they have differences in in their surface structures, but they are almost identical in some less superficial level, which we are referring as deep structure. And that structure is referred as noun phrase plus verb plus noun phrase. Here we are referring that tamim is the noun phrase, broke is the verb, and the window is noun phrase. And in the second sentence, this is sentence number 1, and in the second sentences we can also say that the window is a noun phrase, was broken is the verb phrase, and by tamim is another noun phrase. Not by tamim, but tamim is noun phrase. So we can say that noun phrase, that means NP, and then verb and noun phrase is the structure. And here also we have this one, noun phrase and then verb and then noun phrase. So if we look at this in some less superficial level, we can say that we have the same structure in both of the sentences. So the deep structure is an abstract level of structural organization in which all the elements is determining structural interpretation are represented. So we are referring about generating grammatical structure. So we are referring this. So now still we can have some issues, we can have some challenges in sentence and sentence structure. For example, look at this sentence. Anika beat a man with an umbrella. I don't know what that particular man did, but Anika beat a man with an umbrella. So you know that there should not be s in here because I am referring a past tense. So that's why beat is also the past form of beat. So look at the sentence. So we just look at the structure of the sentence. Anika beat a man with an umbrella. So this particular sentence can have two meanings. Anika had an umbrella and she beat a man with it. Or Anika beat a man and the man happened to be carrying an umbrella. This sentence can have both of these meanings. Anika had an umbrella and she beat a man with it, or Anika beat a man and the man happened to be carrying an umbrella. And of course, small boys and girls. So what do you mean? We can say that only small boys and girls, or we can say small boys and girls. That means boys and girls which are small. Or we can say only the boys who are small and all the girls. So that could be the interpretation. Small boys and girls, or small boys and all girls. So this form is referring as structural ambiguity. So a structural ambiguity refers to different meanings depending upon how the words in the expression are grouped. So if we look at this, we can say that whenever we are referring about this ambiguity, we are not clear about the meaning of this sentence because of its structure. So we are referring those phrases, those sentences as the result of structural ambiguity. The structure are not clear. So that's why those sentences can have different meanings. Okay. So in order to understand that, we need to analyze the sentence. Okay, but what is the role of this one? One dead tree? Okay, we cannot say it is a dead tree, but it is a very good art of tree where there is no leaves, but only the branches. So we are referring the branches in here because in order to understand the sentence, we need a diagram. We need a diagram which will explain the structure of a sentence, and we are referring that diagram, or we will be identifying that diagram as tree diagram. tree diagram refers whenever we'll have different structure in there, and we'll have like branches in there like trees. So we are referring those structures as tree diagram. So that's why this tree has come to your slides. So don't worry about that. We will be analysis of a sentence, but you need to follow that particular narration in order to be able to analyze a sentence. That one is very important, and because as you are a student of English or English literature, I should say, but your structure of English language needs to be developed in order to have better knowledge and understanding about English language. So that's why you need to be able to analyze a sentence, and to do that we need to study tree diagram, which will be coming in the next narration, not in the next slide but in the next narration. So that's why I am saying that it will be continued. We need one more slide presentation to identify the sentence structures, and as well the references are from these sources, Yule, May, and other sources. So I believe that there should be some questions. If you don't understand any part of it, I will be requesting and recommending and suggesting to put those questions in the forum. And of course you can help your peer, you can help your friend, classmate by giving some information under these questions. So that doesn't mean that I should be answering all of those. You can help your friend and classmate and a peer. So please do that. There is nothing wrong by helping your friends or classmates. But don't think that I will not be answering. Definitely I will be answering. I will be leaving my comments and my responses there. So don't worry. So thank you very much for being present in the last half an hour. So thank you very much. I believe that you will be present in the next slide to have a complete idea about syntax. Thank you all.